Think different, live different. V180.
V180.
Hey, Mel with you today, and we're going to be catching up with Victor Claye. He's a gospel, hip-hop and Afrobeat artist based in Adelaide in South Australia. He's got an amazing story. He was born in Sierra Leone, raised in Australia after fleeing war and poverty with his family. His 2025 single, Pass the Mic, hit number 4 on the Oz 5 Top Tunes charts, and he's been playing at music festivals all across Australia, including Freedom Festival, Seek Jesus Festival and Heartstrong in South Australia. Outside of the studio, he's a pastor at City International Christian Church, and I'm so excited to chat to him about his music. Let's get into it.
Think different, live different. V180.
V180.
For those who have never heard of you or your music before, tell me a bit about yourself. Who is Victor?
Yeah, my name is Victor Claye, and I live in Adelaide. Adelaide's my home. I love this place. And I've called Adelaide home for about, if my math serves me right, almost 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was born in Sierra Leone, a small country in West Africa. And I've lived a bit of a story some of my story as a refugee in Guinea. But so grateful to call Australia home. And it's here in Australia that I have discovered this knack for music, and now I have such a great passion, and it's such an outlet for me. It's how I express myself creatively. Yeah.
Cool. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story coming from Sierra Leone into Australia as a refugee. What was that like for you?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm so grateful for is that in Sierra Leone, where I was born, it was an English-speaking country. So coming to Australia, it just made that so much easier because the language barrier wasn't there as much. And so for myself and for my family, it just made it so much easier to integrate, made it easier to make friends and to understand the culture because we could understand and speak the language. There was war in Sierra Leone in the 90s and early 2000s, and so that caused displacement for so many people, including us. We were just really, really grateful to, after spending about 5 years in Guinea, to be accepted into one of the humanitarian programs and be able to call Australia home. And that just gave us a whole new opportunity for life.
Wow, that must have been huge for you and your family when you got that call to say that you've been accepted.
Yeah, it was literally like that. Yeah, it was massive. It was massive. The whole time we were, spending time in Guinea, that was, what we were hoping for and waiting for. Because it just meant that the future just looked so much more different and so much more brighter for us.
Wow. How old were you then when you moved to Australia?
11. I turned 11
wow.
within a couple of weeks of us coming to Australia. And
so you would remember a lot of that too.
Yeah, I remember a lot of Guinea, not so much Sierra Leone because I was about 5 when we left. Mm-hmm. So most of the stories, most of what I hear from or remember from Sierra Leone as stories, I have like 1 or 2 very, very vague memories.
Yeah, wow. Have you always known Jesus or had a relationship with Jesus growing up? And how did you come to know God?
Yeah, I've always been a churchgoer. Now, have I always known Jesus? No. I grew up going to church. And shout out to my grandma. She was an amazing woman of God, and she really grew us up in the faith. We went to church every week. And, now I look back and I really appreciate those times. I really appreciate those memories. But, especially coming to Australia as an 11-year-old and going into my teens, I didn't really appreciate that much. Church felt like it would be very, very boring for me. And it just seemed like the things that people were doing out there in the world were just so much more exciting and so much more fun. So in my teens, I started going to church. My dream when I came to Australia was to be a soccer, superstar. Cool. One of my key memories when I was in Guinea, I can't remember which. I think it was maybe the 2002 World Cup. I remember I managed to sneak out and I was watching it on the TV with some other people that were watching it. I think it must have been the final or something. And I remember seeing Ronaldo score. for Brazil. And so I was like, whoa, like I want to do that. It was amazing. Like, that's what I want to be. So then when we came to Australia, soccer was played on Sunday mornings. And then so it was a choice of, going to church or playing soccer and chasing this dream. And, so as a teenager, I was like, I'm chasing the dream. And so, I stopped going to church. Didn't really place much value in that. But, after that, I kind of, just did things my own way, lived by my own rules. And, but then that led me into, hitting a place of really rock bottom where I just kind of made a mess of my life, made a mess of some of the relationships that I had. And, really saw some not so great things come out of me, and not just my thoughts, but also my behaviors, my actions, the way I treated others. And, then that kind of made me aware of sin in my life, and aware of my need for grace, aware of my need for forgiveness and mercy. And I moved back in with my grandma. Thank God for my grandma. I started going to church with her again, and that's where I had an amazing encounter with God, and a really fresh, revelation of God's goodness and His mercy and His love and forgiveness. And that's where my journey with Jesus on a personal level started.
Wow, thank goodness for your grandma. Hey, how good
Yes,
is grandma?
I gotta mention her every time because she's played such a massive role in my life and in my faith.
Oh, that's awesome. What was that moment, like you said, that you kind of hit rock bottom and then you changed your life? But what was it that actually, what was the catalyst for that change? Was there one specific thing that kind of made you realize, like, I don't want to live like this anymore?
Yeah, I was, I think at that time I was about 17, and I was in a relationship, and, I was a young kid and in love, trying to make things work and all of that. That was ended up being a really toxic relationship, and I saw a really ugly side of myself, come out, things that I thought I would have never done, and the person that I thought I would have never been. So that relationship ended up blowing in both our faces, and on the other side of that, just looking at myself and going, I'm not this good person that I had tried to be, and this this image of myself that I'd always had as a good moral person was now gone because of the things that I'd seen myself do and the way that I'd seen myself behave. So then it was like, the whole thing of being a good person and getting into heaven, that was now it wasn't an option to me anymore. Then I was like, what do I do now? My plan is backfired. I'm not a good person anymore. How do I always had an awareness of God, always knew that one day I'd meet Him. And so then it's like, oh, well, what are you going to do now when you meet Him? And I didn't really have anything, no plans anymore. But God had a plan.
Wow, He sure does. That's so cool. And how did you then get into music, going from loving sport to going into the music scene?
So I studied sport and rec management at uni, and I was still all into the world of sports. I had my dream job of working at the Football Federation in South Australia. And that was really awesome doing that. And in there, I found a passion for, working with young people and coaching young people. And eventually, I ended up joining our church choir because my wife was in the church choir. I think at the time we were either dating or engaged. And she was like, oh, come and join the church choir. And I was like, singing's not my thing. I can't really sing. But she's like, oh, come on, we need help. You'll be all right. So eventually she convinced me, and things just kind of just went really fast from there. I just found myself at some point leading the choir after not too long being in there, and I guess some of my natural abilities that I didn't really know that were there before kind of just came forward, and so I was able to do that, loved that, enjoyed it, and then. One day my friend was writing music, and he's like, oh, let's do this together. And I was like, okay. And so we did that together, and I just fell in love with that process of just, expressing myself musically. And then that's where my own journey started. All of a sudden, now I had this outlet, and so I just kept on doing it, more and more and more.
Wow, that's so cool. So you had no, love of music before that?
Was this?
No,
Yeah,
not
that's
really.
so cool.
I've always been a lover of music, but more of a consumer of music. I've
Uh-huh.
never been a creator of music. Yeah, music was never a thing for me. I actually went to a high school that had a special music program, and I look back and I think, oh man, if only.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
I had no idea life would go this way,
Yeah.
and it's just an amazing thing that I think God has just unlocked, and I think it's such a product of my relationship with Him.
Yeah, totally. And we're loving your new single, Love Like This. Can you tell us a bit about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, it's such a fun song. I love performing it live, and yeah, it's one that I love because it gets people involved, and ultimately it asks a question. Have you ever had love like this? And it's so significant for me because love, especially romantic love, was such an area of focus for me in my younger days. I thought that would be it. Apart from being a soccer superstar, it was about falling in love, getting the girl, and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that would be really what would fulfill
Like
me.
the movies.
Just like, yeah, and it was very, very heavily influenced by the movies and
Yeah.
by music, and there's all these like songs of grandeur, and it's like, oh man, like that must be amazing.
Yeah.
And if I had that, then I would be really fulfilled, I would be really happy. And so yeah, I really bought that. I went for it, but yeah, like I mentioned before, that it ended up blowing up in my face, and it wasn't really it. Yeah, coming in and discovering that ultimately God is love, and that His love is the greatest. So love like this is kind of all about that, about saying, have you ever had a love like this? This is what the love of God is like. It's forgiving, it's transforming, it's fulfilling. So yeah, have you ever had a love like this? Because there's no love like Jesus.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. Hey, it's very different to human love, and relationships
Exactly.
have that way, hey, of showing
Yeah.
you, like, I know when I first got married, there was a lot I had to learn in that first year. You have this idea on what love is meant to look like in the movies, and
Yeah.
yeah, you got to work at it every day. Like,
Yeah.
how?
Yeah, I remember getting married as well, and people were telling us, oh, about the honeymoon period and all that kind of stuff. And I was
Yeah.
like, nah, honeymoon period? It's like, yeah, nah, there's not going to be anything like that for us. But yeah, like reality sets in.
Totally.
Love is not easy, but yeah, then when you've got the love of Jesus to lean on, then it makes all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. Hallelujah is also one that I'm really liking at the moment. Can you tell us how that came together?
Yeah, so Hallelujah was a collaboration with Orville Jones, and yeah, I love that it very much carries my African and my Sierra Leonean roots and the rhythms that come with that, and yeah, so I spent a lot of time with Orville Jones. We go to church together. We're like family friends, and yeah, we were hanging out, and I had this little melody idea in my mind, and it was just a song of gratitude. Just when you have those moments and you're like, praise God, you just look back and you're thinking about all the things that He's done. So yeah, it was birthed out of one of those moments. I had this melody, and so I said, hey, do you want to hop on this together? And so it was just a song that was just brought out of gratitude and out of praise to God for all that He's done and all that He continues to do. So yeah.
Awesome. And Victor, I love to ask all the artists this. Do you have a favorite Bible verse that's kind of got you through your life?
Yeah, I'm thinking about a couple, but one of them, yeah, I think it has to be Proverbs verse 3, 5, and 6. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He'll make your path straight. And that's my favorite verse. Well, one of my favorite verses, because
It's hard to choose one.
yeah, it is,
Yeah.
right? I've spent a period of my life, going my own way, doing my own thing, leaning on my own understanding, and I know where that leads. But I've also now experienced what it's like to trust in God and to live for Him, and just how much better that is, and how His word is true, and it really does make your path straight. He really does get your life right. And so that's my favorite verse, and it's something that I always go to. I'm reminded every day that I can trust in God. I can lean on Him, even when I don't understand sometimes what's going on or how my life is going to turn out, I'm reminded that he has better for me. And so I can just, trust in him. I can just go with him, and he gets me to all these places, and I just go, wow, I couldn't have done this myself. Yeah.
Love that. And what's next for Victor Claye? What do you got working on this year? Is there any new music coming out? What's going on?
Yes, for sure. There is so much coming. So God has opened lots of doors for me to be traveling a little bit. So I'm going to be hitting up some towns and sharing some music. I think next up is Warner Ball in just over a week. I'm there, sharing some music and sharing my testimony. That's going to be awesome. I'm also working on an album with Australian Christian Records. It's going to be my very first album, and I'm really, really, excited to put, a few songs together and tell a bit more of my story in depth. So I'm really excited for that, and and a bit more travel coming along. I'm looking forward to traveling with my family as well, and just doing this whole thing with them. So watch out. I might be coming to a town near you sometime soon.
Yay, I'm so excited. And how can we follow you if we want to keep updated with where you're going? Where's the best place to follow?
You can hit up my our website, victorclaye.com.au. I'm also on socials. You can find me on Insta and on TikTok and on Facebook, Victor Claye Music. You can stream my music on all streaming platforms as well. So just look up Victor Claye or Victor Claye Music, and you'll be able to connect. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time joining us on V180, Victor, and I wish you all the best for your new album.
Thank you so much, Mel. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.